Hi all, thanks for watching. My name is Greg LaRoe. I'm the owner of Moose's Gunsmithing and Machine Shop based in Canaan, New Hampshire. I'm really a gunsmith, but I do a lot of firearms focused machining and I do a lot of other machining stuff. So please don't treat me as some expert. I do my best, and this is a really rough project. I'm not shooting for super precision. I'm not shooting for super tolerances. I've got a 4 or 5 thousandths of an inch window where these will work great. So I'm not chasing zeros here, even though you can on a machine like that. So really the theoretical maximum precision on a machine like one of these, at least this one, the best I've ever done is 2 10,000ths of an inch of parallelism. That's a hard word. Went to college, got to make sure you guys know it. And machines like this, you can do better than that, but on an older manual machine where it's kind of worn, it's kind of sloppy, the bearings aren't the best, 2/10 is really very excellent precision. So this is a great tool to have in the shop. I use it for making parallels. I'll use it for squaring up bullet molds, for example. But in this case, I'm really just rough grinding, in quote-unquote hogging material off, which for a surface grinder is taken off 2 or 3 thousandths of an inch, which is exactly what I'm doing here. When the machine sparks like this, I know that's about 2 thousandths of an inch, and my goal is to take off 4 thousandths of an inch off these. So I'm going to take about 2 thousandths off this side, and there we see, issue of age is the permanent magnet chuck, and part of it got weak, so the part moved. But at the same time, this machine's from the 50s. I'm not complaining. I paid $500 for it. The only thing I did is put a new extension cord on it. And I've been running it pretty hard over the last year. So, like I said, great machine. You can do really precise work on it. This is not it. This is not super precision work. So this is just, like I said, rough grinding, hog some material off, get these squarer. I'm not shooting for tenths because these are just registration blocks. I need them to be a little bit undersized for the T-slots, so I can actually just drop the tool on, and I don't have to fight it, I don't have to wiggle it. And what'll happen, especially on the dividing head, if these aren't like bang on perfect, or the slot isn't cut perfect, or there's a little ding in the slot on the milling machine, these won't sit square and I'll never be able to square it. So I need to have some wiggle. So even if I took off 5 or 6 thousandths, these still serve their purpose, which is just speed up the alignment of work holding fixtures on my milling machine. And I think I just posted a video, or it might have been a week ago, depending on when this gets uploaded, of some basic work holding fixtures for a milling machine. And this is a really nice piece of support equipment for basically what is a tool and die shop, really. And you can see I flip parts over in a little bit, and I take nibbles on that side, because on that side I know I'm pretty square. So I'm already relatively square, and they do stick better because there's more surface contact. The parts are just flatter. And you can be a little more gentle on it, where there's really no point being gentle when you know the other side is completely getting reground. At least in my head, if I was doing something that required a higher degree of precision, I'd be more gentle. So this is something you could do with a hand file or a belt grinder, to be quite frank with you, at least depending on what you expect from the machine. So on this side, I find the high spot. You can see where it sparks, and I just bring it down a 0.5 thousandths of an inch. So this is a more typical use. This technique is called peel grinding, where I work my way across multiple parts, taking a 30 thousandths or 20 thousandths cross feed. And that's really good because you're only cutting with the very corner of the wheel. So with that 1/2 inch thick wheel, you can do quite a lot of work without having to redress it. And I like to keep coming from the same side so I don't crown the wheel. You kind of wear the wheel on an angle, so at a microscopic level, it kind of looks like a train wheel where you got that slant to it. That's how I like to envision it, because these are very soft grinding wheels relative to a bench grinder. So Usually, if I take off 1/1000th of an inch across 5 or 6 square inches, I'll have to redress. And these single-phase machines are a lot more sensitive than the 3-phase machines because there's more vibration from the motor. So if you want a really good surface finish, you're going to have to fight with a grinder like this. And I didn't really chase a good surface finish. I chased a good enough surface finish for the application. And you'll see that there's some burn marks, there's definitely some gouges, there's, I like to call it tank track finish because it kind of looks like a set of tank tracks. Because I don't take a finish pass. You can take a finish pass, you don't touch anything else but the crossfeed. You don't touch your wheel height. So you just start from the beginning, go over it again. That'll give you a finish pass. That takes off a few microns, but it really makes the parts look a lot nicer. So for something people are going to see or something someone's paid for, I'll do that. But for a shop fixture that's going to get banged up anyway, just make it work. This is going to work fine. I'm sure I'm going to get a comment telling me that this is the wrong way to do it, but it is what it is. So you can see that these are the parts that I just ground in the last section of the video. They're a nice slip fit into the registration slots on the rotary table, and they're a nice slip fit into the mill. They just plop right in and you're good to go. So like I said, this really does help speed up the alignment and setup on the mill. It's also nice because it makes it less likely that if you do something stupid, the whole rotary table will shift during a heavy cut. That hasn't happened to me. Usually what happens is I break them. But you can also see if I want to use this vertically instead of horizontally, I've got tabs there which are cut a little bit smaller than the horizontal tabs. I paid $200 for this, so issues are not to be unexpected. And I'm going to jump, in the next video, I'll show you how this actually sits on the milling machine. Now that we're over on the mill, see how you can spin this to 0. Excuse my pause. And then you can 0 on the hand wheel, so you disconnect, turn off the hand wheel, and then this really does take both hands. So there you are, 0, 0. So when you put your part on, you'll just align it parallel to this axis. You can also slide this if you care about this being square to the mill. I really don't. This is still a really useful tool to have, and now that I have the tabs in, there's no play because they fit the T-slots very well on the mill for fixturing. So if I were going to put this on, I'd probably take the vise off so I have more room to work. Because when you're out at the end of travel like that on a kind of worn machine, the table feels a little bit tight when you got a lot of weight on it because it's cantilevering this way. Because this is a 3.5 foot table on the mill, 42 inches. So it's a pretty good size. I don't run into a lot of work that I want a larger work envelope, but it does happen. So thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed this as much as I did. It's really fun to get to share some of the cool stuff like this I do, and I hope you all found it informative.